All right. This is ultimately what your drawing is going to end up looking like. And I don't think I talked about the dimensioning style, but I don't think I actually went through it. So I'm going to take you through the dimensioning style requirement setup, and then I'm going to take you through setting up a multi-leader style to accommodate this arrow and arrowhead only. And again, this is essentially what I would do. Other people might do it in different methodology. You might do it with a different methodology as well. And that's fine, whatever works for you. All right, in AutoCAD, de-enter gets you into your dimensioning style dialog box. And the requirement was to create a dimensioning style labeled CAD. That should have been CAD. Oh man, that's old.
I think it was CAD 255.
Yeah, it was CAD 255, so let me rename that real quick. There we go. CAD 255 dim. And if you go to the Modify tab, and you look at the Lines tab, it's 0.09 for Extend Beyond Dimension Lines requirement. Symbols and arrows is 0.15 arrowhead size. And having this as a line, just in case you're going to use it for any kind of dimensioning for circles or arcs or anything. That's all on that dimensioning style requirements document that's in D2L, that's available on the content page. Text, oh, I got to rename that. I think this was so the text style was CAD 255 text with Arial font and bold font style. These other fonts that come in here, they're applicable to the default title block drawing file that you have that you can get off of D2L with the bill of material that's listed here. And that's how you're going to set up that text style. I'm going to close that. So set that up, and then the height of the text is going to be 0.10 for a height. And then in the Fit tab for dimensioning, because you're going to put dimensions on in model space, what you want to do is on the Fit tab, there's a Scale for Dimension Features option in here. And right now we're going to use an overall scale of 4, which is the 1/4 inch equals an inch scale factor. What this will do is it will multiply any and all little fractional things that you see in the dimension style by 4 in order to make your arrowhead size correct, the text height correct, the extend beyond dimension lines, any dimensional feature in there. For instance, if I went back to Lines tab, it will take these two numbers and also this one, and it will, in the background, it will multiply those by 4 in order that when you plot it out, they'll end up being the correct size. So it just takes care of all of that. And then under Primary Unit tab, what we can do is set this up to be fractional, because there's a dimension here and there's a dimension here that's going to be in fractions. A lot of times in an assembly drawing you see very few dimensions. Most all the primary dimensioning is done on the detail drawings, if there are any detail drawings. On an assembly drawing, it's basically just dimensions that you would need to do any kind of final installation. What we want to make sure is that there's a distance between the centers of the shaft that's being operated and the motor. And then in here I want to put a dimension from the end of the shaft to the location of the pulley. That way if the pulleys end up being skewed from each other, not lined up directly, I can go back to the drawing and the person that put this together for me, I can tell them, well look, this one was flush down here and this one had a specific dimension to it, so you should have made sure that those were in line. Or I could put a note on there that said, so, you know, at assembly, verify that the pulleys are in line. I could take care of that as well. So fractions are easy enough. And then the fraction format is horizontal. And that's going to be your dimensioning style. So I'll OK that and close that. And then up in the ribbons, you got Home, Insert, and Annotate. If you click on the Annotate ribbon and go to the leader panel in here, there's a little arrow over here. I'm going to have to move the mouse so that goes away. But there's a little arrow over here that's pointing 45 degrees down to the right. That'll get you into your multi-leader style manager dialog box. And on this one, I went ahead and set up a leader style. I created a new leader style, and I called it Item Balloon Leader. I could have left the standard dimensioning style in place and done some modifications to it, but what this allows me to do is to have one where all I have is an arrowhead and a line, and then if I had the standard leader style in place as well, as long as I made the modifications to that, then I could put in a leader with a shoulder on it and text and all that kind of stuff. So it gives me a little more variation to do what I need to do. So I'm going to go in here and just click on the modify. So under the leader format, what I want, this is by default, this is 0.18. So I want to make sure that this arrowhead size matches the arrowhead size in my dimensioning style, because it's a dimensioning function. And under leader structure, this is usually check marked, which means that it will put this little landing out here on your leader. So I uncheck mark that takes away the automatically include the landing, and I get just a plain arrowhead and a line to work with. Then the same thing, scale. The scale for these multi-leader features is the same as the scale factor on my drawing at 4. Same as the dimensioning style. And then under content, this is typically M-text right here, and then you see all this dialog box for all the text stuff that's in here. What I do is I change that to none, because I don't want any text associated with this particular leader. I just want an arrowhead and a line. I'll just show you what it shows up by default. It's generally in here by M-text, and that's where you see all of these. Here's where you would go in, and if you had text in your leader, you would want to make that the same text type as your dimension style, 0.10. But I'm going in here and I'm just creating this special. And then I'll go OK, and I'll go close. Alright, so I already talked about the balloon. And did we annotate it and make a block out of it? Or did I just talk about the size of the item balloon itself?
You showed how to annotate it if you wanted it to.
Okay, so I did go through that. See, it's hard for me to kind of keep track of what I talk to with Monday, Wednesday group when I'm talking to the Tuesday, Thursday. So I'll just have you make sure that okay, so you can annotate it. So what I'll do is I'll just put a item balloon up in here, and I'll point it off to some item up there in the top view, just to show you the consequences of setting up those two parameters. So if I go insert, and I have item balloon, and I specify the insertion point on screen, and I bring it in at 1 to 1 because I created it at the correct size. So I'll put it up here, and if it's annotated, then I have a little prompt that I gave myself when I created this, and then I can put a number in here. So I'm just going to make up a number. I'm just going to call it item number 12, let's say. and OK. And then I'm going to place it in here. All right, so now what I would do is, as I'm still on my Annotate tab, I can come up here and I can put in a leader command. I can point this to an object like that, and then what I would do is I would come to the center object snap, and put that in, and then I'll come back and click on it a second time. I'll come down here and put the cursor over the grip. The grip turns red. I'll grab that by clicking on it, and I'll come back to the intersection point and escape, because ANSI standards tell me that when I put this arrow in the leader to the item balloon, it should look like it was going right to the center, rather than being at some obscure angle, like connected to a quadrant of the circle or some, you know, interesting kind of area there. The other thing theory-wise, when we're putting in item balloons, and I've seen this done and I've seen this not done. The theory is that you'll find in some textbooks, and this got brought up in the other class. Somebody asked, okay, where's item number 11? Well, I believe that this drawing, I use this as an example, probably like what I did here, and then I just never deleted it and just saved the drawing, and it's still there. So I think you're just items 1 through 10 on the actual assignment. So don't be alarmed if you see that out there, because it stops at item number 10 in the bill of material. All right, any questions off of that so far? Putting this dimension in, this is an aligned dimension style in here. Clicking on the center of this shaft and the center of that shaft will do it perpendicular out here, and should give you this 15 3/4 inch. And then we want to make sure we're dimensioning from the end of the shaft to where the pulley location is, the end of that pulley there. Theory being that this will be lined up if this pulley is flush with the end of this shaft right here. And I might put a leader on there and say, add assembly, place the pulley on the motor shaft flush with the end of the motor shaft. Or sort of make an assumption that that's what's going to happen. All right, let me talk about creating this and doing something that's annotated. A title block that's annotated, and using layout space and model space. All right. Now this is what you can do, is you can download this drawing off of the D2L site. So I'm just going to pull it off of my flash drive as if it were, well, I haven't logged into D2L, so I'm just going to open it up. All right, this is the drawing that you end up with when you click on it and download it. And then if I brought the title block in at 1:1, and I talked about this on Tuesday, it comes in too small and it won't go around the outer edge of the object and leave room for dimensions and item balloons and all that. And then inserting it as a block, you would insert it at a scale of 4. Okay. For some people that's great. It's what's called doing everything in model space. And then as I filled in the bill of material and the title and the drawing number and all that information, I'd have to scale factor that. I'd have to take 1/8 of an inch, multiply it by 4 to get a 1/2 inch for the correct size text. For some people that's kind of problematic. They would rather do it in a more straightforward method. Yes, no.
Okay, so in my previous CAD class, we learned how to use the page layout.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
I'm going to go through that right now.
Okay, I'm just wondering, on this assignment, would you rather we use the model space or the page layouts?
I don't really care.
Okay.
Whatever you find easier is fine with me. My general theory on any kind of a drafting class is I'm not really concerned about what process you use. What I'm concerned about is the end result. Is the text type the correct size for my either written or verbal instructions. Is the item balloon the correct diameter when it's plotted out? Is the text the right height when it's plotted out? And the plotter was not working the other day. It's now back to being functional, which means that when you get your drawing done, next week there's going to be a due date for the first submission of the drawing to be turned in. That's next Thursday, a week from today. Next week is going to be real low-key. There's probably not going to be a formal lecture involved. It'll be something kind of like this. Tuesday and Thursday will be more of an open lab. You can come in and work on it and plot it out and start getting that crossed off your list of things to do. But I'll send emails out with that information as well. All right, here's layout mode. So I've got this drawing started. And what I want to do is come down and look at my layout number 1 tab that's down here. I've got layout 1, layout 2, and I actually have a V-belt. Again, it was probably done with this particular file, but I'm going to have you, or if you want to, you can click on layout tab number 1 to start setting up your drawing. And you get this, this view here. It's in color. There's what's called a viewport that's out here that looks back into the drawing. It right now is set up for 8.5 by 11 size paper, so none of this is going to work very well for what I want to do in getting it on a C-size drawing. What you'll need to do is come down to your layout tab number 1 tab and right click on it with the mouse, and you get a shortcut menu that pops up. And in that shortcut menu, up, not quite halfway up, is something called Page Setup Manager. And it's got 3 dots, which means that when you click on that, you're going to get another dialog box that pops up. So here's my Page Setup Manager that looks a lot like a plot box if I were just going to simply plot this drawing out. Highlighted is layout number 1. I'm going to come over here and use the Modify tab and set up a plot for this particular layout tab. So I'm going to modify, and this may pop up or may not depending on the file. The HP LaserJet 4M Plus, if it was plotted under some other circumstances, some other room, or not at all, it kind of gives you a little default message that pops up. You can just click OK on that. There's no problem with that. And then it takes you right into the regular plot dialog box. So what here is we're going to set up the plotter name. So I'm going to down arrow, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to find the Canon IPF 750 plotter. And once I pick the device, then it's going to allow me to be able to pick the paper size. So I click in here. And I want to come down and use the 17-inch by 22-inch ANSI C borderless. I like to use the borderless option on here because it gives me just a little more room to work with to set my title block in and have it turn out really well. So the other one does work. There's not a real problem. I just kind of prefer this one. And then previously, if you were doing any kind of plotting from model space, some of you took an AutoCAD class from me last year or previously, or even when if you did intermediate drafting with me, we went in here and we changed this to extents for the drawing. We're plotting all of this from a layout mode, and you're going to leave this at layout, which means you don't even have to worry about centering the plot as an option and check marking it. So I was really adamant about using extents, center the plot, let AutoCAD do all of that work for you. Right now it's going to do it automatically. And then in model space, I would have to, if I were doing all of this from model space, I'd have to come in and set this scale at 1:4. This is a 1:1 ratio. And that's what makes it kind of a little more simpler for some people, is now it's just 1:1. I don't have to worry about scale factor. This is not check marked. I got a lot of this leaving fit to paper in intermediate AutoCAD last term, and drove me crazy because I'd have to write on the plan. This should be 10 inches or whatever size if it was plotted at the correct plot scale, but it looks like it was fit to paper. That's taken out of the equation. You want to make sure that it's set up for monochrome, and in the layout mode, you have to check mark display plot styles to get it to plot black and white. Otherwise, you could set it up for monochrome, and if you don't check mark this, then it will turn out to be color for whatever line layers that you created and the colors that you set on the layers. So make sure that you check mark that. And then OK, and then close. Now what this did was it turned it away from the color into black and white. Now this viewport is really small, and I need to delete this viewport and ultimately create a different viewport that I can go back in and look at the drawing and see what's in the drawing. So I'm going to click on this and delete. And now I essentially have a blank piece of paper that I'm working with. Well, the other day I talked about putting the title block into model space. Now I'm going to talk about putting the title block into layout space and using an annotated title block that I have created for you to be able to use. And it's available through D2L, so you can kind of like download it, save it, and then you can insert it into the drawing. Or you can download the title block, and then insert the assignment number 2 V-belt drawing into that. So you'll have to do a little bit of saving because it's going to, both of those would open up as read-only. Alright, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and use the insert command because I have this saved to a flash drive. And I'm going to browse, and I'm going to my flash drive and going into my kinematics folder and going into my drawing assignments. And so you will be looking for, if you're going to use this method, you can look for the ANSI-C BOM attributed drawing file. Again, download it and save it. So I'm going to open that. I click on it and open. And in this particular case, again, I did some preliminary work to this title block to make it possible for you to uncheck mark this, specify the insertion point on screen, because then you're trying to figure out where this thing is supposed to go in relationship to the paper. And we're going to insert this at 0, 0, 0. So if I uncheck mark that and click OK, then I should end up with a attributed prompting for the title. So enter assignment title, enter assignment drawing number, enter drawing scale, enter first name, initial and last, enter month, day, and year. And this is going to populate this title block down in here, and it's going to be all the correct size. So I'll go ahead and put that in. Remember on the text to use your cap locks on. So V-belt, motor drive assembly is the name of the assignment. The assignment drawing number is KIN for kinematics, space 255-2 for assignment 2. The drawing scale is 1/4 inch. Whoops, not 14. Whoops, 1/4 inch equals 1 inch. The drafter is G. Truman, and the month is April, the date is 6th, and the year is 2017. And when I click OK, and I zoom in here a little bit, all that is populated. Yes, Nolan?
Where do we have the attributed title block template?
It's available in D2L for this class.
I looked in there and I can't find it.
Oh,
I've got
maybe
it.
I didn't put it into this class yet.
I've got it. I don't know if it's, I can't.
let me
I
check.
have another question. I don't
Let
want
me
to-
check
I don't
real
want to
quick.
cut him off, so.
That's a little bit of a problem with two different classes. All right, I'm gonna blank this screen for a minute. Oops. So, I'm gonna set this up. Yeah, maybe unblank it here. All right, so I'm just logging into D2L. And let me go down. Content. Okay, I did not put this in yet. I will get that in today, as soon as I get done with this little demonstration.
I might be looking at the wrong one then.
Yeah, if you're
'Cause I put
opening up the ANSI with BOM, it's not attributed. So I'll make sure that you have that available.
Okay.
Because people that are not on campus need to have accessibility to that as well. All right, let me go back to the drawing then. All right, so we've got this. Now, if I needed to add any text in here, like material, I can just add it right to this title block. And since it's 1-to-1, this would be the height of the text that I would want it to be. This is 8-inch text. I don't have to scale factor this text when I'm doing it in layout space and I'm adding the title block at 1-to-1. This is 5/32 of an inch height of text if I were to put this on without having an attributed title block. This is 3/64, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio in this case. For instance, okay, so now I need to activate a viewport in here, and I'm going to go back to the home ribbon and put the layer properties in, and do auto hide here. So in this drawing that you got, there is a layer called viewports that should already be there. It would have come with the assignment 2 drawing. And if I slide this over and pull this down a little bit, well, I'll have to scroll down. It's set up so that it does not plot. I don't want the line that's being created with my viewport to be printed out and have extra lines in my drawing. I want it, but I want a viewport look back into the drawing and set that up, but I don't want it to print. So make sure that that's the current layer. All right, so now I'm going to go to the viewport command. And I'm going to ask for a single viewport. So I highlight that and enter, and then I'm going to use the cursor, and I'm going to make a viewport that's, something kind of like this. And then I can look back into the drawing. Now at this point, if I move this around with the cursor, the whole page moves. What I need to do is activate my viewport by double-clicking inside of this square with the left mouse. And that puts a darker border in, and then I can position this drawing where I would like for it to be. So maybe I might want to make this viewport a little bigger. So if I want to deactivate it, I can click outside of this, and I can actually then highlight this viewport. If I click on it, right, without looking over my shoulder. If I click on it just once, then I can make that viewport a little larger. And then double click inside of here and activate that. And then I want to make sure that this scale in the viewport is equivalent to my drawing scale. So right now it's 3 inches equals 1 inch as a drawing scale. And with my viewport activated, I'm gonna come down here. And I'm gonna look up here for 1 to 4, and in my particular case, I don't have a 1 to 4 drawing scale. Do you have 1 to 4 on your, has anybody clicked on that?
I haven't gotten to it.
Do you have 1 to 4?
I
Okay.
haven't gotten to it.
Isn't it?
It should be up here near the top, if you have it. If you don't have it, we're gonna come down here to custom, and we're gonna create a plot scale for that. So if I click on custom, I get this edit drawing scales. I'm gonna do add. I'm gonna add a drawing scale in here. The name that I want to put in here is 1:4, 1 to 4 for the drawing scale. It's going to be 1 paper unit and 4 drawing units. Which means the object itself is 4 times bigger than what it appears to be on the paper. So I'm kind of reducing that down. I'm going to go OK, and then I'm going to go OK because it's highlighted, and it gets to be 1 to 4 down here. And then that becomes my scale in my viewport. Now, if I use the mouse and I come into my active viewport and I use the mouse to zoom out or zoom in, notice what happens to my drawing scale down here. It changes, because what I'm trying to do is set up a drawing scale within my viewport. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I messed it up. So I have to come back down here to my drawing scale in my status bar, change that back to 1 to 4, and now if I want this to stay in place, there's a little padlock that exists. Here's my drawing scale here, and I'm going to come over, kind of a little second icon over is, and click on that little padlock icon. I'm going to lock the scale in my viewport. And then if I come in here and use the mouse, it's actually going to activate the whole entire layout page and not affect the drawing scale. Now I can look back into my drawing. And some people like to put dimensions on in paper space in layout mode. Personally, I would prefer to put them on the drawing, because if I want to change things within the drawing, to me it's much more convenient to do that. And what I would do is I would then get out of layout mode by just clicking on the model tab. And then if I go back in here and add something, so I'm going to go ahead and put an item balloon in real quick. And I'm going to change my layer back to dimension lines. And I'm going to put in a circle. And I'm going to put in a diameter of 1.25 because that's my scale factor. Because I don't think I have, oh, I do have an item balloon here. So I could do the block. Oops, what happened? Oh, I need to specify on screen here. There's one that went in down here at 0.
Does that edit attribute come up right away? Or
Yes.
is there, okay.
If it's an attributed item, the attribute should come right up when you click on where you want to place it.
All right.
Okay, so I do that, and I'm going to go ahead and put a leader on here. Like, I'm going to use NEA for nearest for an object snap, because I want it to be along the edge of this. I don't want it to go to a quadrant or the center. Go back to the center, and then wrong leader style. Oh, I didn't change this one. So let me modify that real quick. It was on another drawing, so none. Leader structure 4. Don't put that in, and make this And I put it in the wrong spot. So let me try that again. So then if I go back to layout, it shows up in my layout mode. It shows up in my viewport. Now, I could do that from here. I can do it from my layout space, like this. Making sure that I'm on the dimension layer. So I could do an insert. I can do an item balloon. I can place an item balloon. I can put item number 3 in here. Okay, so here's my item number 3. I can do a leader, and I'll do another nearest. Go back to here. I'll click on that. I'll take that and go to here. And then I'll go back to my model space. And it exists in my model space. Okay, that's one methodology. Or I could do this. I can go back to my layout mode. I can deactivate my viewport. And I can put another item balloon in. And I can put 4. And I can say, hey, but it's been scale factored in my multi-leader style to 1:4. So I'd have to go back to my multi-leader style, make it 1:1 to be able to put it into layout mode. So, you know, there's a drawing procedural kind of a thing here, which is why I would tend to scale factor it or make it annotated to match my drawing scale. And that's another whole topic altogether that I'll save for another class session. Annotated versus non-annotated. Well, I would say, you know, if you're going to do it, create your layout, put your annotated title block in, and do everything from there, and not mess around with what I just tried to do there. So let me just undo that. All right. The other thing that I would probably tend to do is not put my viewport over my title block. I'm going to change that back up to here, at least. And then if I'm going to fill in my title block, because my title block does not exist in my model space, it's just in layout space, I'm going to do multi-line text. So multi-line text, I'm going to pick the top corner on my item number box here. I'm going to go H for height, enter. I'm going to put in 0.10 for the height of the text. I'm going to justify J, enter. MC for middle center. And then I'm going to put my item in and close my text editor. I'm going to spacebar to get that back. Once I set my height of text, I don't have to set it every time, but I do have to reset my justification. J, enter, or spacebar. MC, quantity of 1. Close text editor. And then the description down here, I'm going to do multi-line text. If I click on this corner right here to start with, then the text is going to end up right on that line. And I want the text to be at least 1/16 of an inch over as a margin, as a space. So I'm going to hover and use my object snap tracking mode to put that text in. So I'm just going to hover, slide over, put in 1/16 of an inch. Enter. I'm going to J, enter, and middle left is what I want for the justification on this box. I come down over here and I hover at the end of this. I slide back and put in 1/16 of an inch because I don't want the text to go completely to the end there. And then what is item number 1? I think it's motor base. Yep. or whatever it is that I made an item blue point to, provided by others. And close text editor. And then I populate my bill of material in layout and paper space. Either way is totally acceptable. Doesn't matter. So two different kind of methodologies involved there. This ends the lecture portion for today. Yeehaw.